It's an honor to be here today. I'm very excited to share this panel with these incredible people. So to start off, I'm just going to do introductions and we just go down the row. So I'm the founder of Cybr magazine. We merge physical and digital. We have a print magazine where we create AR experiences with our covers and things like that. And I just want to go down the road. Stan, please introduce yourself.
All right, so Jude Corner first. So I'm Stan. I lead brand partnerships at Ready Player Me. Ready Player Me is a cross-game avatar platform for those who don't know us, so it's very nice to be here.
Hello, I'm Leanne, Elliott Young, CEO and co-founder of Institute of Digital Fashion. We built it as an emblem for change to make a more inclusive and diverse, sustainable future, which is solving some of the pain points of the fashion industry. Great to be here, everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Camille Kroely. I'm Chief Metaverse and Web3 Officer at L'Oréal, so the world beauty leader. A company that was created in 1909, so I think that makes me the old lady of this panel. And we are working on cracking the codes of beauty in this new era of Metaverse and Web3.
I'm Betty. I am the co-founder and CEO of Deadfellaz. We're a Web3 brand.
Thank you so much. So the conversation today, I mean, it's inevitable that we'll all have a digital self in the future, whether that's direct reflection of our in real life selves or something very different. And it opens a whole new exciting world for self-expression. And how do brands, artists, platforms in Web3 support inclusivity, authenticity, and creativity that we will all want in this new digital world? So I think a good place to start is IODF have done many papers and surveys recently, and Cybr's done a couple too, on just what people want from their digital selves, from their digital avatars. And it seems to me that if you look at IODF's or Cybr's papers at the moment, that most participants say that in a virtual world, they intend to explore themselves, potentially changing or evolving who they are from their physical self. How do platforms and brands support that want from users? Leanne first.
I think the reason why we did so many papers is because the pushback from various clients, which was taking some shortcuts. So on representation, why can't everyone have blue skin? We thought there was an obvious reason. Everyone wants to be represented. So we did a white paper to really delve into that. Those that are in a wheelchair don't want to walk again. They want to feel represented. The Simpsons are yellow, but they're deemed white. So it's everyone's responsibility and a brand's responsibility to actually give people the tools that they need to not only express themselves, but also to see themselves. Again, something which fashion struggles with. So, I think it's a big responsibility, this era that we're stepping into, making sure the right tools aren't programmed with bias, etc.
Does anyone want to add to?
I think it's important to look at the NFT space and the movements and the communities that have been born from these PFP projects, of which I run one. I had a hard time entering this space, to be honest. Early 2021, there was not really anything that represented what I felt is me or anyone like me. There was no queer representation. There were no women in projects aside from there'd be random traits where it'd be like, they've got makeup or boobs and borderline offensive stereotypes. And to echo what you just said about people wanting to be represented and to see themselves, I think that's a big barrier to entry in this space. It's like you need that validation, like it's okay to exist here, So I think that PFP projects are quite a powerful tool to do that for people. Yeah,
it's interesting. And I think, for you, I wanted to ask you, I mean, when you were building artwork and traits behind Deadfellaz, did you put consideration into inclusivity and authenticity? And what advice would you give either a new collection today or someone who's kind of growing their brand going forwards in that end?
Yeah, so when we launched at the time, there was nothing that represented gender as a spectrum. Deadfellaz, every single trait while we were designing was inherently not gendered. It was, so then, when you run the art through the code and it generates all of these 10,000 individual pieces, the gender of the piece is really down to the holder to decide. And I think that lends itself to the decentralization that we so love about this space. You have the freedom to choose how you express yourself and how you represent yourself. To me, it's fascinating, the aspect of digital identity and how we're using these things to represent us. And I think that having non-gendered traits just added that layer of freedom for people, you know? I wanted anyone to be able to come to Deadfellaz and find themselves there, so.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really awesome. I think it's interesting because I feel like there's a number of different ways that people approach it. And I think with Ready Player Me, it seems that most people tend to start using their avatar by a photo of themselves. So kind of it ties it to more of their physical self. I wanted to and you get Leanne talking about the complete opposite, right? So why do you think with Ready Player Me, people choose to kind of go more down their in real life selves reflection?
It's a very good question. I would say it's not by design, but rather by choice, which is a manifestation of freedom, to Betty's point. So everyone's free to express themselves. So if you want to start with your physical me as the basis for your avatar, sure, go ahead, do it. We have the functionality. It gains some notoriety because it starts with a selfie, so it's fast and easy, but it's just a way for you to begin your self-expression journey. So go ahead, take a selfie, make the avatar, or go ahead and do the other route, completely random avatar, start from scratch, put the blue hair and, whatever you want to have that you don't want to have in the physical world, if you want to completely disconnect. So it's all about the freedom of expression versus this feature or that feature.
Interesting. I mean, talking about the freedom of expression, I really want to come to Camille about the kind of future of beauty. I mean, beauty's really evolved, especially with social media. We've even got into big policy changes. Law changes have almost got involved due to kind of facial cosmetic filters and the way that kind of goes. But at L'Oreal, have you thought about concepting the beauty for the metaverse? Is there kind of a vision at L'Oreal for beauty post-flesh?
Yeah, what we think is that the desire for beauty has always existed. It's always been there, and it crossed time, it crossed countries, and it now crossed the physical and the digital and virtual boundaries as well. And the way we think about it is to say that beauty is a powerful force that moves people. It has that power, and it's not just about looking good. It's about expressing who you are, who you want to be. And thanks to Metaverse, you can have that possibility of self-expression that have no limits, basically. And we've been in the past year in a moment where we've gone all through a big global pandemic. We've gone through major tech disruption, from virtualization to tokenization. And that has shaped this. It's not about just the technology, it's also shaped by creators and communities and people. It's not just tech, it's culture and movement. And all this crystallized in the metaverse, and what we see is that it's definitely reshaping the cause of beauty, of art and of self-expression. That's what we see today. And it goes beyond just the creative expression. It's really about who you want to be. And the gateway is the avatar. It all starts with the avatars and the way you want to customize it. And back to your point about the way you start the journey, I mean, it can be reassuring for people to start with just their picture or their selfie. But then what we see is that the first minute they start to customize it, then they love to go beyond the reproduction of the usual, I would say, real world. They want to go beyond. They want to try daring looks. That's what we've done with some experimentation with Maybelline and L'Oreal Professional on Ready Player Me. And the most daring looks inspired by gaming are the ones that were the most popular, actually, because people then can be wherever they want to be. And we've done some studies, and what we see in the studies is that if you ask especially some gamers and Gen Z, 57% of them feel they are more comfortable and able to self-express themselves through their avatars than in real life, because then it's about your soul, your emotion, and not just the physical limits that you see.
Yes, and talking about those, expressing the emotion, it feels to me that we've got these tools now. Like we have, Clo3D to design incredible dresses, or we have a number of tools, or like MetaHuman and things. What do you feel that these tools are doing to help us express ourselves go forward? Do we think that there's going to be a kind of explosion of expression in this way?
Well, we did a focus group with some Roblox users, and it was super interesting. It actually started from us considering you know, the semantics of fashion and what that looks like in all these different platforms and with all the different tools. And, you know, a 10-year-old white boy has 3 breasts, walks around in a cage and is larger than life, like spilling out of the cage, and has green skin. And the fashion choices were based on a collection that he designed himself that came from a meme that him and his friends curated together. And then that meme and that T-shirt then became a rare item on there. So it's really interesting how this sense of expression is about kinship and how it then feeds into this kind of space of worth. The moment they had together, they shared together, creating this kind of meme, now has worth, and worth as an asset. So it's really interesting how this expression of self-identity has then gone back to how they then design and curate and build businesses.
Yeah, it's interesting and playful as well. The interesting thing, you talking about that, I also want to touch on anonymity, and I especially want to put this to Betty. Like, obviously, you stayed anonymous in the space, obviously, until reasonably recently. I'd love you to talk about the importance of it in the space and how you see it kind of going forwards and the evolution of it at the moment.
I think that there's a big focus at the moment with the amount of rug projects and everything like that of founders being doxxed and, you know, needing to be doxxed and all of this stuff. But actually, I think that we should focus on preserving anonymity, and I think it's a very important part of the space. Anonymity and being able to represent yourself how you choose to, especially with these PFP projects, it adds so much, but especially for marginalized people. There are so many intersections of identity that bring hurdles to participation in the real world, but also true danger. You know, the life expectancy of Black trans women is the lowest out of most demographics, and that sort of thing can be transcended by choosing to either have that identity or not in different spaces. And I think that people should be afforded that power. Not to say that we don't need to tackle the underlying issues there, which is very important, but I think just allowing people that freedom it needs to be preserved. It's something that we perpetuate, and I wanted to demonstrate how you can operate in this space with anonymity, but did choose to dox because I like to be at things like this. But yeah, I think that as well, you know, the way that you wear a PFP is the same way that you choose to wear clothes. It's all a signal, it's social signaling, right? Like, this is where I belong, this is who I belong to, these are who I roll with, that type of thing. And it sends a big signal when it's projects like Deadfellaz. We have a very strong identity and mission. People that align with us choose to use that PFP, and they're saying something with that, right? So that's also important.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot of what you said there kind of ties in with like safe spaces as well, like, and how that kind of comes about. I mean, there was a quote from a report from ODF where a person said that they didn't really want to display their pronouns because they wanted to create a safe space for themselves, which kind of struck a chord in me. I mean, how do you feel that brands, platforms can work together to create that safe space virtually?
I think there's a lot of work to be done. Obviously, it's amazing, like initiatives and businesses like yourselves. But when it comes to like luxury brands and, you know, creating platforms or trying to educate their customers or bring their customers into this like Web3 space, I think that fear probably is one of the positions that you may feel, which obviously comes from that statistic, like the wariness of exposing yourself, because we are in the physical realm, you know, push back if you are within a minority group. So I think that having initiatives that are transparent and bold and, you know, educational, and making, I suppose, giving the audience a space for themselves to feel that they are safe within that. But I think brands probably have a lot of work to do, because it's actually projects that have true authenticity that work.
Yeah. It's interesting. And talking about brands, I will switch slightly because I want to go to Camille, which is like, you both now launched, if I'm right, you've both launched a virtual-only makeup brand and a virtual-only hair brand right now. How do you feel like approach designing a beauty brand for a virtual-only audience? It's quite an interesting take, I think.
So they're not purely virtual. actually. It's based on our existing brands such as Maybelline and L'Oréal Professional, and we've done also some experimentation with NYX. So it's how do we build really these virtual experiences. The approach that we took at first is to work through collaboration with artists, with people and communities that were actually already into that virtual space. Because when we started, we didn't know, and we wanted to learn and collaborate with them. So that's what we've done with NYX and People of Crypto in the Valley of Belonging, through a diversity and inclusion project. That's what we've done as well with Ready Player Me, with Maybelline and L'Oréal Professional, working with a 3D artist, Evan Rochat. And what we've done is pairing these 3D artists also with makeup, I would say traditional makeup and hair artists. And that's where we see the magic also taking off, because then there's no limit for creativity. That's where you push also the limits for tech as well, bringing some also insights about the diversity and exclusion. Just giving an example on, for example, the hair. Everybody is talking about fashion, virtual fashion, and so on. But if you look at the figures, the hair is the most important thing just after fashion for people.
I can confirm there's never enough hairstyles on the platform. Just never enough.
Never enough. And it's one of the first signs of diversity and inclusion, especially if you think about Black people and the different type of curls. There's so many types of hair. That's something we've studied for more than 100 years. And the thing we think about is also that, yes, it's for virtual and it's a virtual audience, but at the end of the day, there are real people, behind. Mm-hmm. So there's always the question on how do you link back the physical, the digital, and the virtual? And we have this conviction that the future of beauty, the future of self-expression, will be in this combination of physical, virtual, and digital. Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to say is about the kind of software companies, technology, it's such a good point, because we primarily, lots of creators work with Daz 3D, which is an amazing software, but there was so much program bias, and we found that if you wanted to put female clothing on a male avatar, it was like, it's wrong. So we actually did a project with them, which was, you're speaking about hair, we've got a mullet front row here, so this is my business partner, Catty Tay, a non-binary individual, and Catty wasn't represented in that space. So they built a digital double of Catty Tay with the famed mullet, which is in now several campaigns in the fashion industry, because the asset that was created was, effectively, it was fully rigged. Yeah. So you have that as an asset in the program to play with gender on a slidable scale. And it was just so powerful, the fact that the creators were stuck in this dichotomy where it was male or female, which was so frustrating. And also, no mullets. Everyone wants a mullet.
We've got mullets in Deadfellaz. That was very important for me. It was specifically after Bimini, the drag queen, who I am obsessed with.
Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bimini is amazing. It's interesting because I think you guys are talking about, both of you have been talking kind of about not only pushing the artists and the tech into building better versions and more inclusive things, etc. But what's interesting, and I know everybody's bored of interoperability, I'm sorry, but it has to be mentioned. We do have Stan here. But it's interesting because you can build that really high level and like high fidelity, right? But then as soon as you move platforms or move, like not everyone can have a Daz 3D person made of themselves. It's a very privileged position to be in, but you know what I mean, right? So it's quite interesting. I mean, like whether you've got like Deadfellaz in World Wide Web, or whether you've got Artifact in Sandbox or Artifact elsewhere, like it all starts to look different. So how do we maintain that creativity and also the inclusivity across platform?
First of all, it's difficult. Technology is not easy. Some of you may
know. We're here.
Some of you may know technology is not easy. So one of the things we solve is actually the ability for an asset to work equally well across any of our partner applications. So that's more than 6,000 now. So from that point of view, when you start from there, interoperability actually becomes equal to freedom. So you become free to express yourself. As a user, you can go to all of those different places and express yourself, be that in a persistent way, or you could look different in any of those platforms, but you have the freedom to actually go ahead and do it. You don't have to start from scratch every time. And as a creator, again, you get the freedom to go ahead and just focus on your art, publish it, and it works everywhere. versus, no, I'll have to go ahead and create the hairstyle 100 different times, or 1,000 different times, or 6,000 different times. So yes, it's not easy, but ultimately the goal is just to enable that freedom of both expression and creation. So yeah, we are getting there.
I really agree with that as well, and that's, again, a focus for Deadfellaz. So a lot of the work that we've been doing over the last year is to create various iterations of the avatars so that it doesn't matter what platform you decide to be involved in, you can be your digital identity. And that freedom of movement goes hand in hand with freedom of expression, right? Like, you can't have one without the other, so yeah.
And if I can add, I think today what we're doing is somehow compensating the fact that they're not fully interoperable. So we design assets depending on the platform so that people can use it, but it's not fully there yet. That's one of the barriers today.
No, thank you. And we're nearly at time, actually, so I'm going to go to my final question. I'd love you all to answer this. So I feel like, want to know from you guys, like, what do you feel the biggest catalyst even, is to unlock a new era of creativity for both the digital and physical future as we go forwards?
I have a big answer for that, and it's just, so this space is disruptive in nature, right? It challenges systems and structures that have been built and we've been working within for a very long time, and I think we are creatures of comfort and we find solace in that comfort, and it's quite scary to break out of that. But this space it is breaking out of that. That's why the people that are involved in this space right now have the ability to like see where it's going, but that's quite terrifying to people because the lack of borders and labels and rules and boxes of creativity, of everything that you do, whether it's how you express yourself within a certain category or, you know, whatnot, it could go on. All of that is being completely challenged by this space, and I think as people become more comfortable with operating with that freedom, we will see incredible things happen. I see it as really an unlocking of humanity on a spectrum rather than having us as categorized, binary, you know, static things. It's impossible to contain the vastness of humanity into a label, but we're so hell-bent on it, and I feel this space is the challenge of that, which is very exciting.
Great answer.
What we see on our end is, to build on that, is that it's an era of creators and communities, and as brands, it's really how can we collaborate and how can we switch brands from their usual role and operating model into platform that can partner, that can help and empower creators and communities all together and actually work. You define yourself as a brand. That's super interesting. And how can we co-create together? That I think is one of the key for the future, as well as this link back to physical world as well, virtual plus physical, never forgetting that it's not just about creating another silos, you know, something separate that can be very dangerous as well for mental health. They just state that. So how can we build it so that it helps also to make ourselves more confident in the real world as well?
Yeah, I love that. Like because we always say, you know, the IRL, URL working in unison is so powerful. But then when you actually look into all of the self-expression and the fact of the liquidity of the self and in a way, the higher level of consciousness beyond borders, beyond race, and it just feels like this kind of merit of the new citizens of the globe is something really powerful. And back to your point, and like, it's a hope that can inspire us in our physical realities when we do have so many pain points. And it's, I suppose, everyone watch and listen and take note on what is developing in this decentralized space, because it is so powerful. And in the next 5 years, we're just going to see it evolve so much more. And there's going to be these bold moments that we're all a part of, which is really powerful. I think, yeah, the physical world's got a lot to learn. Yeah.
I have a slightly different take, actually. So obviously not an artist. So, but for me, it will go down to ease. That very simple word. Like, if we are to achieve mass adoption in Web3, it needs to be easy. And my benchmarks are actually very silly, but very practical. My daughter is 7, and my mother is 63. And they need to be able to pick up their phone or sit on their computer and easily navigate the space. They cannot right now. So we have no lack of creativity in the ecosystem. There's some amazing people here doing amazing work. But I think there's a lot to be done in terms of ease of use. If this is to go mainstream, that's it, just ease.
I feel like we're almost there. Like every day there's a new incremental, tech solution, which means that the interoperable reality works and the ease of opening those goddamn wallets, and I feel like we're getting
work
there.
is being done. I'm not discouraging anyone or not putting anyone down. I would say there's just still some.
Yeah, it's definitely painful.
Yeah, it is still painful. Like my mom looks at MetaMask and she's like, put that away.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about.
No disrespect to MetaMask. You guys are amazing.
Yeah. But if you mint on Polygon, where do you find it? There's like 12 steps to get it. Nightmare.
I think, just going back a bit, I think I'd love to end it on your quote, actually, Betty, which when you said when I was asking this question, you said, unlocking humanity on a spectrum. I love that. I think if you think about it 50, 100, 200 years ahead, that's really what it goes to. So thank you so much to all our panelists. It's been an incredible discussion, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. All right.